the power of analytics, you are being asked to respond faster and with greater insight. You are turning data into knowledge. You are global. You are industry leaders. You are a community 3,000 plus strong.
You are.
You are.
You are.
You are.
You are.
You are.
You are. Creative.
Engaged.
Smart. Driven.
In the know.
Curious. Visionary.
You want proof, not promises. You want out-of-the-box thinking, right out of the box. You are what drives us, excites us, inspires us. You are facing real challenges. You need an analytic platform that handles soaring data volumes. You are on the cutting edge. You are leading the data revolution.
We are with you, and you are just getting started.
Gentlemen, please welcome Jim Baum.
Wow, what a crowd. I'm so thrilled to be here to welcome you all to this, the 7th annual Netezza User Conference. It's incredibly exciting to see over 1,000 people here representing the NZ community from all over the globe. You represent our customers, our partners, analysts, and the press. And I want to thank you all for being here and for your continued support. I'd also like to extend a special thanks to our signature sponsor, IBM, our platinum sponsor, MicroStrategy, and our gold sponsors, Aperio CI, Ativio, and Fuzzy Logics. Now, you may be interested to note that you are currently attending the world's largest conference dedicated exclusively to the use of appliances for data warehousing and analytics. A little bit self-serving, I know, but we sure have come a long way, haven't we? You know, just 1 year ago this week, in fact, in this very room, I stood on this very stage, and we gathered here, and I talked about a phenomenon that I felt was so profound that it is fundamentally changing the way our global society functions. We called it the intelligent economy. And IDC defined it for us as an economy that makes better decisions based on data and information. And I explained that this concept was really all about giving us all the ability to respond to data from our environments in near real time to help us make better decisions to affect better outcomes. And we talked about some examples of what we call the intelligent economy. One of those examples was the Smart Grid Project. The Smart Grid Project is sponsored by the United States Department of Energy, and it's a project that's fundamentally targeted at making our electric utility grid smarter, able to respond to data from literally trillions of devices around that grid, reporting on their energy usage, reporting on their energy usage patterns, and then analyzing that data to make decisions about when to produce power, where to produce it, and how to distribute it on that grid, and giving consumers the opportunity to more efficiently use that power and make better decisions about when they use it. We also talked about an example in the healthcare industry, where we looked at the idea of people getting now a full 360-degree view of a patient using data. Data collected from the patient, data collected from lab records, medical claims, pharmacy claims, genetic tests, and so on. And then using that data through some sophisticated analytical techniques to actually predict a future healthcare issue for that patient. Imagine what we can do as a society when we're able to predict future healthcare problems and then respond to them proactively. Now, just 3 months after we came here and talked about these profound ideas, we at Netezza merged our company with IBM. And you may be wondering, why did we do that? Netezza was doing great. We were growing our revenues. We were growing our profits. We were delighting our customers and our partners. We were thrilling our shareholders. Things were going very well. But in light of all of that, there is one important reason why we felt this made so much sense. And it's because we think big. The ideas of the intelligent economy have a global impact that requires massive scale to fully realize. And interestingly, you may have noticed IBM thinks big too. Who else would come up with an idea like creating a supercomputer called Watson to win at Jeopardy? IBM is the world's largest, most experienced enterprise technology company, and it turns out that IBM and Netezza share a common vision. Our common vision is that analytics and a new form of analytics are a key enabler to these ideas of the intelligent economy, and a vision about the ability to change the way the world thinks and works and makes decisions. IBM has a 100-year history. In fact, you may have noticed IBM celebrated its 100th birthday just last week. IBM has a 100-year history and culture of using technology and information to change the way the world works. Now, IBM calls their vision, as I'm sure you've seen on the TV commercials and elsewhere, they call their vision the smarter planet. And I think it's interesting that both visions are saying the same thing. Here's IBM's definition of a smarter planet. A smarter planet is instrumented, intelligent, and interconnected, industry by industry, process by process. And here's what we told you last year about the intelligent economy. The intelligent economy is a network of intelligent enterprises, individuals, and streams of data coming together. It's clear. Both say the same thing. Both visions are describing a world, an economy, a society made smarter through the use of interconnected data and analytics. And so this collaboration between Netezza and IBM really was an alignment of our visions. IBM's vision is big. Netezza's vision is big. Together, IBM and Netezza can execute on this vision in a global way. Now, what do I mean by a big vision? I've already said that I think that what's happening in our industry is so profound that it's affecting the very core of how our society works. Predictions and optimizations are already occurring every day, influencing our lives in ways we sometimes don't even recognize. For example, produce. In the grocery industry, reporting back to distributors how fresh that produce is. Ski slopes tracking skiers' whereabouts on the premises for their safety. Trucks that predict and avoid traffic jams. One of my favorites, dressing rooms that suggest accessories like a tie, something that can help me a lot when my wife is out of town. Now, some of these examples may seem somewhat frivolous, but the truth is they have real human impact. What happens when we as a society experience a disaster, like the one we just experienced in Joplin, Missouri, where tornadoes rip through that area, causing the worst damage seen in that part of our country? It creates a sudden and immediate human need. In the retail industry, we might call that a demand signal. But in this case, it creates a demand signal that requires a response in minutes and hours, not weeks or months. And so the existing supply chain, without the ideas of being data-driven and responding in real time, simply can't respond. Our existing warehouses and interconnected systems are just too rigid. And as a result, it's difficult for us to deliver on some of these basic human needs like water and food. Now, I've been incredibly encouraged recently by having met some companies and some people who are working on this problem and problems just like it. by making these systems more responsive to the demand signal, by making warehouses more flexible so that we can meet these basic human needs in times of disaster. Now, these examples and others are just some of thousands of ways that already the smarter planet is helping make life on this planet better for all of us. So you might imagine, in my job, that I think a lot about how we get there. Because underlying all of this is a set of very difficult problems yet to be solved. And we've already established that analytics is what enables these ideas of the smarter planet. Yet the infrastructure to support this must exist, to support the applications, to capture, manage, access, and deploy all of this data, all of these applications to all of these users. And the requirements on this infrastructure go way beyond the traditional requirements of operational and business intelligence. Because this stuff ends up being pervasive in everything that we do. In fact, ironically, in many cases, it's actually invisible to us as systems are making decisions and affecting our everyday lives. Now, what I'm describing here is definitely happening. We see this all the time in our business, in the broader IBM business, in the industry, in the vendor community, and through the analysts. In fact, Gartner tells us that the market for data warehouses is growing at 2 times the rate of the market for transaction processing databases. And certainly all of us in this room know that data warehouses are one of the key underpinnings of everything I'm talking about here, enabling analytics. Now, I would argue that in order to truly enable this, it's a platform that's needed. A platform that's purpose-built to solve these problems of supporting analytics on a smarter planet. After all, managing all this stuff, it's really messy, right? There's a lot of data, lots of users. It's very complex. Environments are complex. How do you deal with complex deployments? How do you gain and control access to these environments? How do you deploy these applications quickly? So this platform must support this new world. And as you all know at Netezza, this is what we focus on. We focus on solving these problems and delivering these solutions in the form of an appliance. Now, I would argue to you all that a disruption is actually underway. And I think we've all read all the books and heard the term and probably used it from time to time, disruptive technology. But I would submit to you that there's actually nothing disruptive about technology at all. What happens is that disruptive shifts are based on economics. Now, technologies can create economic disruptions, and appliances are changing the economics of this type of computing. After all, traditional infrastructure is expensive. It's difficult to set up, it's complicated, it's expensive to maintain, it takes a long time to get value out of it. But appliances are really about simplicity. And it is this simplicity that drives accessibility. It is this simplicity that drives and dramatically reduces the cost of deployment and operation. It is this simplicity that drives fast deployments and short time to value. And as a result of all of these things that simplicity enables, it allows us to create new and unique solutions that just a few years ago we could only dream about, but not actually implement and deploy. So whether you're building cloud-based or enterprise-based applications, as a result of this, it is clear. Appliances are going mainstream. Now, we at Netezza are very proud of the fact that we started this movement about 10 years ago by introducing the world's first data warehouse appliance. And since that point in time, this idea has gotten so much momentum in this industry that today we're a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. It's had so much influence in this industry that every major vendor in this industry has an appliance strategy. But you know, we started this, and we're very proud of that, and we're very committed to continuing to lead the way in appliances. Now, if any of that doesn't quite ring true to you, look at the data. We are predicting in our industry that between today, 2011, and 2015, we'll see a shift in the way people are spending money on this type of computing. A shift away from the traditional enterprise approach toward an appliance approach. A shift that represents a $57 billion shift in the way money is spent in this industry. A shift that in the year 2015 represents as much as 25% of all spending on servers, storage, and software in this industry. So what better way to take advantage of this fact, the fact that appliances are going mainstream, than for us to partner with IBM? If there's any company on the face of the planet that knows how to take technology mainstream on a global scale, it is IBM. And this appliance model, this strategy is so important to IBM that last year they invested nearly $2 billion in the strategic direction of their business through the acquisition of Netezza. So here we are, post that acquisition, and you may be wondering, what happens to Netezza now? Where does Netezza fit inside of IBM? Well, you know, this all started a little over a year ago when I had dinner one night with an IBM general manager named Arvind Krishna. And Arvind and I got together and we talked about many of these ideas I'm describing to you here today. We talked about the need for Netezza to achieve scale. We talked about our strategy and how they were so well aligned. We talked about synergy in technology, in talent, and products. In short, we really connected on many of these ideas, and that began a process where we continued to whittle away at that problem until we really understood and really convinced ourselves that yes, in fact, this makes tremendous sense. Now, you can hear all this from me, but I think it might be very interesting for you to hear this from Arvind Krishna as well. We're very fortunate to have Arvind here, and he's agreed to come up on stage and speak with us. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Arvind Krishna, the General Manager of Information Management. Arvind, thank you. Thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure.
We really
Great
appreciate it.
to see the crowd also.
Yeah. So I've positioned you as the mastermind. You okay with that?
Mastermind always reminds me of, you know, one of these James Bond villains sitting there, stroking a cat on his lap, thinking of world domination.
Exactly. Oh, well, look, I really appreciate you being here. And, you know, we've had some great conversations about strategy and alignment and whatnot. But I think independent of Netezza, I think it would be very interesting to talk for a minute about really how does IBM and how do you view this appliance space and this shift that I described a few moments ago?
So I think when we look at appliances and you step back and look at it not just around data warehousing but overall, you get sort of two ways that you can buy stuff. You can buy yourself your server, your storage, your network, your software, spend a few weeks or maybe a few months and self-integrate. There's a little bit of risk in that sometimes, and you could get all the way there. Or you can buy an appliance and get going within a few hours or a few days. Now, it's not to say the world goes to one or the other, but if you have a workload that's reasonably well defined, and if you can construct an appliance that meets those characteristics of simplicity and takes away operational cost, you choose not to do it just from day one. It's got to actually be like that through its life cycle. We firmly believe that more and more clients, and I think this room kind of speaks to that belief, would prefer to buy that way if given an alternative. That tells me, and you showed an interesting statistic of 25% of the spend could go there, that I think that appliances will become a much more leading way for clients to acquire technology than the classic way of being a self-integrator. And I think that's the shift that's happening. We are at an inflection point. It's probably in single-digit percentages today of the total spend. I think it's going to move well into double digits while the market itself expands as we go forward.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we agree. Netezza, we've spent our whole careers building this idea of an appliance. And I don't presuppose for a moment that as we talk about appliances, that really we're talking about exclusively just data warehousing appliances, right? I mean, we're talking about appliances for many different applications.
No, absolutely. So as I sit back and think of it, you can imagine appliances for moving messages around a network, right? Think ESBs in a box. You can think about appliances for integrating data from public and private cloud, sort of the hybrid cloud model. You can think about appliances for doing database security. You can think about appliances in the world of intrusion detection and prevention, a space that has been there, firewalls. As you go on and you now begin to bridge from, well, you talked about data warehousing, how about more transactional appliances also? Again, when you can well define the workload, it's kind of an engineering problem. If the workload is reasonably well defined, you kind of have an idea of the balance of storage, server, and network that can satisfy a range of users. It's worth it for us technology lovers to make an appliance, and then it's worth it for our clients to consume it as an appliance. If it's completely unpredictable, it's completely undefined, you have no idea what the balance should be, then it's tough to make an appliance.
Right.
But I firmly believe that, yes, it's not just data warehousing. I look at the general space of analytics. I begin to look at some transactional applications. I begin to look at certainly the well-repeated tasks, which everyone's IT infrastructure has. And how do you reduce the skills and take away complexity? It's got to be appliances. I mean, what's the alternative?
I don't know a better one. I think one of the things that I'm certainly interested in, and I think many of our customers and partners who are here today, is really your view, Arvind, on how does Netezza now, as part of IBM and as part of the information management organization, fit in to IBM?
Well, the first thing, I mean, many of you know IBM's been called Big Blue, and you kind of look at that box over there, you know, with these stripes and worlds. I think we got to dress it like IBM's dress code. Put it in a gray or blue suit with a white shirt, a striped tie.
Yeah.
No more colors than that. But more seriously.
We'll get on that right away.
That's a joke, guys. I mean, but just more seriously, just thinking about the road ahead. Look, it's our goal to go help make things succeed. It's our goal to help make things scale. I mean, Jim talked about that. How do we scale? Netezza had presence in about 4 or 5 countries physically. We got to get out there to hundreds of countries. We've got to leverage technology that help makes these things easier. We got a reasonably rich set of technologies from inside that could be used to advance the capabilities that all of you already love. But the biggest thing is that as we sit and think about analytics, so I'm firmly convinced, as are I know many of you and many of our industry analysts, that analytics is going to be even bigger for all of you and for the world than just things like ERP or just the classic back office applications. Now, as you sort of go down the analytics path, there's a lot of sprawl in many IT environments. And the question is, how does one address this sprawl? The classic idea of one big EDW answering everything, I don't think works. I mean, it might work at a few places, but in most places that doesn't quite work. So how does one address this consolidation? How do you say there is a place where you do take it in, maybe not one, but maybe 2 or 3 places, you cleanse it, you got your data, and now how do you then go off to other places where you do all of the computation and all of the deep analytics? As analytics explodes, the amount of compute you need to do to it also explodes. It's kind of unlikely you're going to do that in just one big place. So this whole idea of consolidation, of how do you begin to create this environment in which you can sort of do analytics and not force feed it kind of backwards to what you thought of 2 years ago, but make it flexible to what you want to go address so that you can answer all the questions that are in your head. I really do believe that that's really the road ahead for us together.
Yeah. Well, I agree, and I think it's one of the things that's been so appealing about coming together with IBM. There's so much ability to scale here, yet also so much technology and talent that we can collectively leverage to achieve the vision.
Absolutely. I think that that's really the synergy beyond sort of the obvious financial and market synergies. I think the way that people think, the way I can already see over the last now 7 months, the interaction amongst our technologists, the way I can see the ideas spreading in terms of what products we can go build together and expand, I think is going to really make our clients, hopefully many of you, very happy. I know you'll get to hear some of it over both Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll get you direct feedback in terms of what you think about those joint capabilities.
Great. Well, Arvind, thank you very much.
Jim,
very much appreciate you being here. Arvind Krishna. Well, when you came in here today, I don't think you could help but to notice the theme of our conference. This conference is all about you. And it's something that at Netezza we've always prided ourselves on. We've always prided ourselves on being connected with you, our customers, our partners, and learning from you about your requirements. And as we talk to you to understand your users' demands and your analytics requirements, one thing is very clear. Regardless of industry, Netezza users have an insatiable appetite for information. Speed to insight is imperative. Flexibility, scalability, time to value all matter. But one thing stands out really above all, and it is this idea of simplicity. And I would argue that simplicity has really been the key to Netezza's success and the key to the proliferation of appliances throughout our industry. So you may have seen we describe Netezza as the simple appliance for serious analytics. And we call it the simple appliance because we've masked the complexity that has made it so difficult to really exploit this proliferation of data. But make no mistake about it, this is complex technology. It is a complex, interconnected set of server and storage and software technology that's built to solve a specific problem. But the elegance in the solution is that we've been able to deploy that and deliver it to you in the form of an easy-to-use appliance. We call it serious analytics because these are the analytics that are really driving real change in your businesses, in the economy, in all of our lives, and in society. These are the analytics that really matter. Now, so many of you here today are seriously involved in deploying these types of analytics, and we hear your stories all the time. We listen to you about your use cases and your needs and your requirements. And we're very fortunate today to have with us a few of you who have agreed to come up on stage and talk with us about the applications that you're deploying and tackling some very complex challenges in your own environments. So I'd like to welcome some special guests up to the stage to talk with us. Bill Purcell, who is the CEO of Market 6, a longtime Netezza partner, a company that's making great advances in predicting demand for retailers. Ron Ambrosio, who is the global head of IBM Research for Energy and Utilities and a world-known smart grid expert. Dr. Murali Ramanathan, who is with us as the professor of pharmaceutical sciences and neurology at the University of Buffalo, where they're pioneering the use of analytics and data mining and genetics to help find the causes of multiple sclerosis. And Christine Twyford from T-Mobile, where T-Mobile is truly embracing the idea of an appliance as a strategic part of their enterprise infrastructure. So welcome. Thank you all for being here. It's a great pleasure. I'm honored to have you up on stage with me, and I know everyone's interested in what you have to say. You know, we've been talking about some of these ideas of smarter planets and big, lofty, interesting concepts and lots of global impact. I think you guys can help us bring it back to reality and talk about what you're really doing. So Bill, why don't I start with you? Your company has been partnered with Netezza. We've been doing some very interesting work together in the area of predicting demand in the supply chain and working with grocers and other retailers. Can you give us a little view of what you've been up to?
Sure. Market 6 is an information company, a little bit different than a lot of technology companies. Our model is that we work with major supermarket chains. We work on enhancing their data and then market that data to their suppliers. And our kind of flagship is with the Kroger Company, which is the world's largest self-standing supermarket chain. Historically, that's been a lot of challenges for a retailer just to aggregate information from their legacy systems, and a lot of challenges even to be able to just see their own data. And the approach that we put in is to partner with Netezza to put in a demand signal repository. That's where all this disaggregated information can go and be cleaned and harmonized. But because of the power of the Netezza system, we're able to take that to the next level. And instead of just being able to provide a backwards-looking view of what happened yesterday in a supermarket chain, we're now able to provide a forward-looking view of what will happen in the supermarket chain. And literally within our deployment for the Kroger Company, every night we do about 20 billion forecasts in advanced analytics.
20 billion forecasts.
In about less than 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And we embed all of that data into the database itself, so that then from that point on, everything is simple reporting.
So with 20 billion forecasts at Kroger, what happens? What's the benefit? What's the result to them?
Well, the net benefit in working with a great company like Kroger is they'll tell you what the net benefit is very plainly. They can better serve their customer.
Yeah.
They can eliminate out-of-stocks, and you can eliminate out-of-stocks if you have a better predictivity, a better means to predict what will happen. And so you can anticipate the problems before they do. So literally for the first time in a retailer environment, with a very high degree of accuracy, we're able to say, instead of just saying the out-of-stocks yesterday we're able to say the out-of-stocks tomorrow will be unless you take action. And this gives our clients, both on the retailer side, but also on the consumer goods side, a tremendous advantage throughout their system.
Yeah, this is almost really the holy grail of retail analytics. What a great story. Ron, thanks for being here.
Sure.
I want to turn over to you. Feel free to make fun of me for how I described the Smart Grid project. And you're the expert. But I thought it'd be great to hear from you about what Smart Grid's really up to, how it's using analytics, how it's making decisions and machine-to-machine decisions, and really where we are in the deployment of that.
So smart grids are really an example of a class of applications. A lot of times in the academic community, they're referred to as cyber-physical systems. What we're doing is putting an information overlay on top of the existing electrical system, which has a lot of information technology in it today, but it's in the form of more traditional control systems and things like that. What we're trying to do with smart grids is optimize at a larger and larger scale. There's a lot of reasons why that is necessary today. Everything from the fact that the electric grid is often referred to as the most complicated machine we've ever built. It's enormously expensive in terms of the capital investment that countries have made. And as the equipment ages, we want to try and get as much out of it as possible. So it's important to understand what is the condition of the equipment and how do we manage the grid so that we put less stress on the equipment. Another thing that's really been motivating the emergence of smart grids over the past decade that IBM has been working in it is the importance of climate change. And a big part of that, as I'm sure you're all hearing in the news, is more and more renewable energy needs to be used. A lot of that comes from wind and solar today, which doesn't tend to be as steady a supply as you would get out of your traditional coal-fired plant or nuclear plant. That means that the supply is constantly in flux with the changing wind or with clouds going over solar panels. We need to be able to manage the electric grid much differently today as we put more and more renewable sources on. All of that means that we need to understand what's happening, and we need to understand it faster. It's an enormous, complex information management and analysis problem. And what we're doing on the Pacific Northwest Smart Grid demonstration, which Netezza has been part of since before we acquired Netezza. So I've been working with them for a number of years, and in fact, they were part of the previous project, a predecessor to this, working with the National Laboratory, that's one of our partners. We're taking all of the data that is coming in from this project, which will go live next year, across 5 states in the Northwest. It's the largest smart grid demonstration project in the country, and it'll run for the next 4 or 5 years. And we're using the Netezza appliance as our main data warehouse. We have a TwinFin 12 with 32 terabytes of capacity. And we've also taken that and we've put it together with another technology, one of the things that Arvin was alluding to, Infosphere Streams, which can do real-time analytics and complements the Netezza appliance very well. So as the data comes through Streams, we're using that to stage everything into the Netezza appliance. We can explore that data in the Netezza appliance. We can understand what's happening in the electric grid from all this data we're collecting, and we can improve how we manage the grid. And that's ultimately the goal of this project, is to produce an architecture that we can then prove at a very large scale to reduce the, the fear of investment in changing how the electric grid is managed, which is a big problem. We've got 3,500 local utilities in the United States alone, and they tend to be a very conservative industry for the most part. So projects like this, at the scale that we have across 5 states, almost a dozen utilities involved, are important proof points. Yeah. And Netezza is a key piece of that.
It's great. What an amazing application of these ideas of analytics and infrastructure required to enable something that will be really quite fundamental to all of us over the coming years. So Murali, let me move on to you, and thank you for being here. We've been working together for a long time in your role at the University of Buffalo, and you guys are doing some potentially really life-changing work in using genetics and data mining to study what it is that causes multiple sclerosis. And I think one of the things I've always found really fascinating about your work is that the combinatorics are so complex, and that you're actually solving problems that you really wouldn't have been able to solve without this current generation of technology.
Thank you. As many of you are aware, there's been a tremendous growth in our ability to measure genomic, genetic, and proteomic biomarkers in the last decade. In particular, our ability to assess genetic variations and sequencing has been really breathtaking, and now exceeds the rates predicted by Moore's law for computing hardware. For example, the first human genome in 2003 cost $3 billion, and just last year in 2010, it was possible to sequence a human genome for less than $1,000. And however, to paraphrase Elaine Mardis, we have a $1,000 genome with a $100,000 analysis problem. And so the real problem in genetics and in using genetics, large-scale genetics in biology is analytics. I work on multiple sclerosis, which is a disease of the brain and spinal cord that affects nearly 1 million people around the world. It affects people with MS, or multiple sclerosis, affects people at the prime of their lives, and causes physical and cognitive disabilities. My research focuses on genetic and environmental factors and their interactions in MS, and in leveraging genetic genomic data for patient care and for drug discovery and development. MS is a genetically complex disease, and no individual genetic factor or environmental factor alone explains the risk of developing MS. This is not surprising because genes work in concert with other genes and with environmental factors. However, the gene-environment problem that I'm interested, the interaction problem that I'm interested in, presents a diverse range of computational problems. Most importantly, as this audience will well appreciate, it's a combinatorially explosive problem. For example, there are over 150 billion interactions for as few as 100,000 genetic variations. And in this context, there are three fundamental problems that we look at. First is, how do you develop metrics that are powerful enough to detect interactions when they occur? And then the next stage of the problem is creating efficient directed search algorithms that can search large combinatorial spaces to find the most interesting and promising interactions. And finally, you need a model building procedure that can integrate these results and to synthesize knowledge so that you can use the information either at the bedside or leverage it in the laboratory to conduct more experiments.
So it's an amazing story, and the complexity is it's mind-boggling, I know, for all of us. Where are you today? I mean, what do you expect the outcome to be? We initially ran our algorithms and metrics through traditional parallelized server-based approaches that are very traditional in high-performance scientific computing. We were fortunate enough through our partnership with Netezza to have access to a twin fin data warehouse appliance. And we had several orders of magnitude improvement in the performance of our algorithms. We're now able to tackle interaction analysis problems that we would have tremendous difficulty in addressing before, and we are able to interrogate our data more efficiently, more effectively. For us, Netezza has been a remarkable enabling technology, and we hope that our research will accelerate the discovery of the cause of MS and a cure for this devastating That's terrific.
disease.
That's terrific. I'm so happy that that people like you are working on these problems that have such an impact on so many of us. So thank you, Christine. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So. You guys at T-Mobile run a pretty big network, last I checked.
We do.
And you certainly are taking advantage of appliances in your environment. And can you tell us a little bit about how you're doing that?
Well, I should first point out, I mean, T-Mobile is a large organization. We are in the engineering department of T-Mobile, and we are a very small pocket of creativity and development working with the Netezza data warehousing systems. We initially thought, when we first engaged with Netezza a couple of years ago, that we were just going to build a tool, or we referred to it as a series of tools or a suite of tools. And very quickly, our thinking began to change, and sometimes those learning lessons were difficult, and sometimes they were enthralling. But very quickly, we were able to find operational efficiencies and optimizations in network performance and handset performance, traffic routing, fraud, revenue gaps, and prove the value of our first investment. Very quickly after that, we were able to expand our investment because it was very easy to cost justify. With each expansion, our conversations with our customers began to change. And what we saw was, as they grew accustomed to having the data and they grew accustomed to our iterative process and our kind of conversational dialoguing with them, that they became more demanding and their questions became more sophisticated. We saw more call for reciprocity in that. And what we discovered was, much as you were talking about, we weren't just a tool, we were a platform. And we stopped languaging ourselves as having tool development or even solutions development. And we started talking about ourselves as we were that foundational structure, that infrastructure. And with that, we were able to then, continue to expand and explore those relationships with the business. We learned, you see, with all the rapid, accelerated deployments and convergences in technology, we learned expertise can't be essentially located, and tool development needs to be where the expertise is. Since expertise was dispersed, we wanted to disperse the capability of report generation. And so we started serving that out. And we've learned that pretty much every manager is a technology manager. So instead of fighting those rogue tools that are off in the field, we decided to make them more capable. And so interacted in that relationship in that way.
Terrific.
I want to say we have over 100 extracts and downstream applications that we developed usually within 3 to 10 days with that same small team. And it's just been a phenomenal experience.
So it sounds like this idea of an appliance in your environment really is becoming a sort of a mainstream part of your architecture as you find you can deploy these applications more quickly.
What's proliferative is the analytics. And so everybody has their own little fly-by-night tools.
Right.
We make those possible, and we make all those changes, all those new launches and becoming obsolete. We make that possible by our quick response.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you all for being up here with me today. I appreciate you taking the time to be here and tell us your stories. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our customer panel. You know, I think it's clear as you hear these stories of the types of problems that people are solving with analytics and with appliances, that really these ideas of appliances are going mainstream and that people are solving problems today that they couldn't even imagine supporting just a few years ago. So as we move on, I want to now talk to you about the part that I really love. As an engineer, I just love innovation. I love seeing smart teams come together, tackle tough problems, and come up with innovative new solutions to those problems. It is this innovation that's always been fundamental to our strategy at Netezza and continues to be a cornerstone of our strategy as we look forward as part of IBM. In fact, I'm more excited than ever, as Arvind and I talked about the opportunities that are here for us to innovate by leveraging what's available to us now as part of the IBM company. So last year, I talked to you about a complete appliance family, a family of appliances that addresses many of the different workloads and requirements across a broad spectrum of data warehousing and analytics. A family of appliances that possesses the depth and breadth required to enable a full life cycle of analytics while staying true to our core philosophies, our philosophies of simplicity, performance, scalability, and flexibility. And so today I am incredibly excited to welcome the newest member of the Netezza appliance family, the Netezza High Capacity Appliance. Oh, drum roll, please. You know, the high-capacity appliance really addresses a whole new dimension of analytics work, because in contrast to our other products, this appliance was designed around a design point of maximizing capacity. It really is all about supporting very large volumes of user data to create a queryable archive designed to support just massive volumes of data. And I think it's another good example of how appliances are really going mainstream. Because now with this appliance, you can query and analyze data cost effectively for all of information lifecycle management. You can consolidate disaster recovery environments from multiple Netezza deployments into a single appliance for DR. You can perform analytics and in-database analytics even on very large-scale data. So I talked earlier about this idea of technology creating an economic disruption. Well, it's now economically feasible to perform analytics on huge volumes of archival data. This system is extremely dense. That one rack alone will support over ½ petabyte of data. These systems will scale to over 10 petabytes of data in a single appliance footprint. And it includes all of the features and capabilities of our other Netezza products, including workload management, Netezza Analytics, zone maps, and all the rest. And very interestingly, this system is available at the lowest cost per terabyte in our industry, priced at less than $2,500 per terabyte of user data. So we're very excited about this product. We think it's a very important addition to the Netezza appliance family, that it addresses new problems that we haven't been able to address before. But I thought it would be interesting to hear from one of our customers to talk about how it is that they're planning to use this capability within their environment as they deal with massive amounts of data and a rapidly growing data footprint. So if you would please join me in welcoming to the stage Dan Engel, who is the Vice President of Analytic Insights from Kelley Blue Book. Dan, come on up. How you doing?
Great, thanks.
Thanks for being here, Dan.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Well, you've heard what we've been talking about with appliances and the family of appliances. You guys have done a lot of pretty exciting stuff with TwinFin in your environment, and now we're talking about this high-capacity appliance.
Right.
Why are we talking about it?
So,
why is it interesting to you
Well,
guys?
before we get started, I just want to make sure I'm up here for the right section of the presentation. I thought this was about the cruiser. Not sure what the high-capacity appliance
We
is.
call it the high-capacity appliance, now that we're part of IBM.
Very good. High capacity then, from here on out.
Like I said, we're already experiencing synergy from the IBM relationship.
Excellent. I have on my pinstripe suit.
So tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on this capability.
Sure. So for us, Kelley Blue Book is really a mid-sized organization, so we don't have extremely deep pockets, and we really try and keep a really close eye on expenses and what we're investing in our warehousing and analytic environments. And for us, we're looking for cost-effective ways to scale at our environments. And for us, it's scale in really two sort of disparate data sources for us, or different data sets for us. The first of which is a data set built around vehicle valuation. So, I'm sure all of you have been out to buy a car at some point or another. One of the relentless pursuits for KBB is to make sure that we're providing the most relevant and accurate values out to the market. So for us, that vehicle valuation space and the data we use to actually predict and forecast what those values are going to be is very important to us. And that's a continually growing data set, and one that we're very protective of, and want to make sure that we're collecting as much data as we can out in the market to understand what's happening and be able to understand where values are going. So we're collecting auction transactions, we're looking at retail sales transactions, we're looking at every possible permutation of different options on a vehicle with different conditions, different mileage, so you can imagine the different permutations of what can happen from the vehicle value perspective. And
now, is some of that data coming from clickstreams as well? Is that one of the sources that you're now dealing with?
Yeah, we actually are actually using our clickstream data from KBB.com to also see how that influences values in the market as well. So we're actually grabbing vehicle transaction data as well as looking at consumer behavior, trying to understand the correlations and see how it affects sales.
So how much data are we talking about?
Right now we're, I guess looking at some of the other uses of Netezza out there, I feel like we're kind of on the small scale. I mean, right now we're roughly around 10 terabytes of data right now, but a lot of our clickstream data is actually still held externally.
Right.
So we're looking to bring more of that in-house, and so looking at something, like the high-capacity appliance really is a very good prospect for us.
Right. So this might be a little bit of a loaded question, but as you look at the TwinFin systems that you have today and the high-capacity appliance that you're looking at now, why would you move toward the high-capacity appliance as opposed to just implementing another TwinFin?
So there's a couple things for us. I think the first of which is, from a cost per terabyte perspective, the high-capacity appliance, when we look down the road at the amount of data we're going to be collecting, how much data we need to help predict what's going to happen both in valuations as well as in the advertising space on KBB.com, looking at those volumes, we need to find a way that scales a little better for us from a cost per terabyte perspective. The other piece for us is really looking at the investment that we've made in Netezza resources. So we have a very small team, about 10 to 15 people who work in our data warehousing space. All of those folks are skilled with the Netezza appliance today, and being able to leverage that existing skill set, I don't have to go through that learning curve and pay the expense to train people again.
Now, do you, as you think about this architecture, do you think about these ideas of hot data versus warm data and using this appliance to help manage that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the big things for us and one of the continuous dialogues that we have across the organization right now is, at what point do we archive data off? At what point do we aggregate? Do we have to go to a sampling model instead of being able to keep the discrete, detailed data? And an appliance like this gives us the option to actually keep warm data out there so that we can actually access that data without having to lose some of that really important detail.
Yeah, you don't have to make that decision. You don't have to worry about sampling. You don't have to worry about archiving it off. You can just keep it online.
Exactly. I mean, personally, I look at it, I think there's a cost associated with doing any of that archiving and purging and aggregating and sampling. And from a cost perspective, putting an appliance in like that, seems like a really cost-effective way to go.
Great. Well, a great real-world example of using the high-capacity appliance, formerly known as Cruiser, at Kelley Blue Book. Thanks a lot, Dan.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
All right, thanks.
Well, now, in addition to introducing you to our new product, the high-capacity appliance, I have some other exciting updates for you as well. We have been experiencing some really great momentum in the area of in-database analytics, in the area that we call Netezza analytics. We just released a new version of this software, and those of you who are familiar with it will recognize the idea, the core principles of it, because just like where we accelerated SQL processing by moving that processing down close to the data and eliminating as much data movement as possible, we've taken that exact same idea and moved parallel complex algorithms now down close to the data, allowing them to execute in the Netezza appliance's parallel compute environment. The result, of course, as you might expect, is a tremendous performance enhancement and the ability to run these complex, sophisticated analytics on very large volumes of data without having to move that data. Now, already we're seeing our customers and partners building some very interesting applications using this technology in the area of geospatial analytics, in the area of data mining, using statistics and R to dramatically accelerate the performance of these applications. Now, in addition to that, I'm also thrilled to report to you today that we really are already experiencing tremendous benefit from the synergy with IBM. We've talked about the idea of IBM offering a wealth of technology and expertise and product and talent. And we've already begun to integrate with that to take advantage of it. And the results of that already, just 7 months into this journey, are that we've integrated parts of SPSS directly into Netezza analytics. So they can now run natively. SPSS models can now run natively in the Netezza environment, offering those performance benefits that I mentioned just a moment ago. Another important topic for all of us, big data. Something that I know many of us are thinking about and talking about and beginning to work on actively in our organizations. It's an important topic, and it's a major commitment for IBM. In fact, IBM just announced a product called Big Insights very recently for managing big data. And already, because of this synergy, we're able to announce a connection between Big Insights and Netezza, really bringing big data and the warehousing environment together into a common platform. And I'm also thrilled to tell you that just Friday of last week, Cognos released a new version of their software, Cognos version 10.1, which is built specifically to take advantage of many of the capabilities of Netezza. So you can see this synergy starting to play out as we become part of the IBM company to take advantage of the capabilities there. So you should watch this space because there's quite a bit more coming in this area. Now, all of that said, I definitely don't want to leave you with the impression that we're focusing all our energies just on the IBM partnership, because it continues to be incredibly important and strategic for us to focus on the entire ecosystem around Netezza. We've continued to work to preserve and enhance those relationships and those partnerships that have come together to build this ecosystem around what we do and complement the capabilities of Netezza. In fact, since the acquisition closed last November, we've had great momentum with partner expansion, continuing to add partners literally on a daily basis. And today, we have over 300 partners that define the ecosystem around Netezza, representing technology partners and systems integration partners, building a truly powerful ecosystem around analytics and around the ideas of the data warehouse appliance. Now today, I'm pleased to be able to announce to you two additional partnerships that really bring us into a larger ecosystem. The first of those is a partnership with Revolution Analytics. Revolution is bringing open source R into the enterprise, and their open source R now runs inside Netezza Analytics, again, creating those benefits of performance that I described earlier. And we're also extending our relationship with Fuzzy Logix. Fuzzy Logix has been a longtime partner of Netezza, and they've developed a whole suite of world-class parallel algorithms for performing complex analytics right inside the Netezza appliance. So I would encourage you all to go see this entire ecosystem. Many of our partners are here. They're here today and throughout the duration of our conference this week, and you can see them at the NZ Galaxy Partner Pavilion. So, with all of this appliance momentum, I think it's clear that as an industry, we're really raising the bar on what can be done with data. We've talked about this conference being all about you and soliciting your requirements and your needs. And in doing that, innovating to allow you to respond in new and innovative ways to your most complex data and analytics challenges. Because really this conference and everything we do is all about you. The innovations that we make based on the input from you allows you to run the analytics that inform your organization. Now, I think as I've continually tried to point out during this discussion today, it's really important to keep in mind that while there's a lot of vision here, this is not all just vision. This stuff is really happening today. So many of you are already applying analytics and in-database analytics and complex analytics in your environments in new and exciting ways that are really fundamentally changing your businesses. So in closing, I'd like to recognize a few distinguished individuals representing world-class companies, people who are leading in their companies in the use of analytics, people who are true innovators in this area, members of this community, the NZ community, who are top practitioners in the field of analytics, people who are on the forefront of using analytics to change the way their businesses work. People who are moving their organizations from rear-view mirror facing to forward-looking, predictive, optimized companies. So please join me in continuing to congratulate the Netezza Analytics Innovators. Congratulations, guys. Now, while these people are clearly blazing the trail here, all of you have taken steps to move your businesses forward. You've recognized the importance of getting a handle on your data, of turning it into real and actionable insight. You are all contributing to a smarter planet. This can be all of you. In fact, this is all of you, each and every one of you, in organizations around the world at the forefront of shaping that world. You are innovation driving everyday analytics. Nice. So thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you back here in 15 minutes.